go back and look at what we've been doing. Thanks, Stephanie. So good morning, everyone. It's a bold school morning. What a way to start our summer break. We so appreciate everyone joining us in and looking at some instructional strategies. We were reading this book and I got so excited about the book that we decided we would do a book study with all of you. So Stephanie, go ahead and hit the next slide. So Stephanie, if you want to give us a wave, Stephanie.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie Howe. I am currently the Instructional Technology Coordinator for grades 5 through 8.
And Scott, you want to give us a shout out?
Sure. Hi, I'm Scott Summer, Instructional Technology Coordinator, grades 9 through 12.
And I'm Angie Rackapal, the Instructional Coordinator for K4, sometimes preschool, just depending on where they need me. So we're going to get started. So our agenda for today is we're going to go over the course agenda. So everything for expectations of what you need to be working on and all the deadlines, credit options, and then we're going to do, well, that was shit. So that should be a fun conversation. Then we're going to talk about chapter 1 and chapter 2. We're going to be using some really fun edu protocols with those. Then Stephanie's also going to go over edu protocols. These are some awesome ways to integrate technology in your classroom. Then we're going to talk about our group projects that we will have time to work on today. And then the individual projects that you will be working on throughout the summer. And then we'll wrap it up for the day. Okay, so before we check out the next thing, I am going to ask, just as some pulling a blank. So things we'll be doing. So if we do ask that you keep your cameras on, feel free to always unmute and jump on at any time. This should be a very open and free-flowing conversation. You'll be going in and out of groups in different places. So feel free, join in whenever you can. When you're not speaking, we do ask that you keep muted so that we don't get feedback and noises that may be in your backgrounds. So if you want, this is the link to our Google Classroom. So if you click on that image for Google Classroom, it will actually take you out to the classroom and join you for the class. So if we have any big news to announce or something, it is there. Oh, Stephanie just clicked on the class code. You can go ahead and bring that up again. Thanks, Stephanie. So if you don't have the slides, that is also the code for you to join the classroom. So go ahead, take a moment, jump into our Google Classroom. I'm going to give you about a minute. So go ahead and jump in. Minute feels like forever when it's quiet, doesn't it? All right, so while you're still logging in, if you need to, Stephanie, can you take us over to the classwork? So all the information you're going to need for the course is listed under course information. So we've got a copy to the book. We have options for how that you could take for the course. LPDC credit and Ashland University information is on there. And we will take a moment here and we'll go over those in just a minute. Then under your class overview, so that is information on today. So we have our slides for today, our agenda. Later, we're going to be working on a self-assessment and an exit ticket. Further down, we have our group project. So all the information you're going to need to work on your group project is linked on here. And we will be adding you guys into group projects here later this morning. And then we have our individual projects, information you will need for those and where you'll be submitting them. And of course, last but never least will be our reflections that we will do when everything is completed for the course. So hopefully everything you need is here. If not, we'll add it along the way. Okay, any questions on that Google Classroom? Jump in, guys, whenever you need to. Okay, Steph, if you can take us back to our slides. All right, so there is a link there for the agenda, expectations, and deadlines. We jump on those. So if you scroll down through, there are options. You could take this for 30 contact hours through LPDC. So you can go out. There are links on the Google Classroom for you to fill out that will walk you through that LPDC checklist. So remember, you always need to get that pre-approval, submit that to Vicki Baptist. There's a link on there for that Google form, or not a Google form, Google Doc. You can fill those out. That is there for you. And then the second thing, when you are done, we will give you a certificate of attendance, and then you have to submit that self-evaluation back to your LPDC to get the 30 contact hours. The next option is 2 hours of Ashland University credit. And if we head back, yeah, thank you. So on here is information for how to register through Ashland University. You will use that link, and then there is a district login. It give you the username is Pickerington, the password is PLSD, and you sign up for the credit through there. You'll see there are about 4 or 5 classes listed when you log in, and you will pick the one called Bold School, and you can register for credit. And then, Stephanie, I forget, what was the cost on that? Do we have that on there?
$360. It's $180 per credit hour.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So the registration for that will close June 8th. So please register for Ashland Credit before June 8th. So you have time to make choices. And of course, you are more than welcome to take this for not credit, just here to learn. That is always awesome too. So those are options for you. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to email any of us. You can email me, Scott, or Stephanie. We are more than happy to help answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to head back to Stephanie. Go back to the agenda. I want to cover the dates. I forgot to cover those. Can you make it any bigger for us? I'm having a hard time reading that. I don't know about anybody else. I'm blind as a bat. Awesome. Keep going down to the important dates. There we go. So on here, we put in all the dates of when you need to do what. So like today's meeting, and hopefully you've read the first 2 chapters. And then we put in, because Ashland did require us to have 30 hours, and also with LPDC. So if you're wondering about how long it should take you to do any of this, those are listed on here. We have our next meeting on June 7th, and that day is when you will be doing your group presentations. And that is June 7th. Please note the time. It is now 12:30 to 3:30, because we did have it originally scheduled in the morning, but we were conflicting with summer school. So they asked us to switch those dates, because I know some of you may be teaching summer school. And then our last meeting is August 6th. It will also be a Google Meet, and you will be presenting your individual projects. And that'll be the fun time when you can beg, borrow, and steal everybody's ideas. And then August 13th will be when your reflections and final projects are due. Questions on expectations and credit options? Awesome. All right, Stephanie, if you'll head back to our slides. And I loved when in the book, Weston was talking about his first experience as a student teacher and how it was an utter failure. It just felt like that felt so familiar to me. And I know we've all had failures. I mean, that first year teaching, I always feel like I need to go back and apologize to those students because it was hard. But we've also been out and we've had technology failures. So one of my first bouts with technology, we only had 5 computers in a classroom, and they decided science teachers that year had to teach health, 6th grade science, and we had to teach health because we no longer had health teachers. There had been cutbacks that year. So knowing very little bit about health, they went out and they purchased these CDs for us, and we were going to use these CDs to teach health. We go in and we load up our 5 kids on laptops. I'm also experiencing some of my first tries at station rotation because it wasn't very common back in the 90s. And so that's how I was going to get all of my students on these CDs to teach health. And none of the CDs would play. So it's that whole nightmare of first year teaching something I'm not familiar with, trying to teach health. The CDs wouldn't play. I have other kids in groups that I'm trying to work with, and it just was a mess. So we've all had those moments of tech failing and not being able to move forward. So what I wanted to do is give you each a chance, one, to get to know each other and to tell your worst nightmare. So we're going to break you out into groups and give you 10 minutes. We're going to ask you to get to know each other, introduce yourselves, and tell your worst tech story. Then we want you to kind of vote who has the worst story. And then you're going to come back to the big group and tell everybody your stories. Sound good? Awesome. All right, Stephanie, if you can break us off into groups, that would be amazing. Thank you. Hi, Erin.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Looks like we are all dropping back in. So how many groups were there, Stephanie? 5? All right, guys. So we're going to have you guys share out your worst lesson involving tech. And then we also want to know, what did you learn from that experience? Because I know with mine, I learned I should have tested those CDs long before my kids came into my room and seen if they worked. Plan ahead, right? So that's one of the things I definitely learned with mine, and to have like some type of backup coming into this. So who is in our group 1? Who's our first group? Do we know who was in which group, Stephanie?
Let me see if I can tell.
Okay. Maybe 4 groups, it sounds like.
Yeah, it looks like it just changed them back.
Whitney will be group 1. So
Awesome. All right, Whitney, tell us about your worst nightmare.
Well, we had a couple of interesting ones, and I'll start with the lessons. And the lessons were always plan ahead, always test everything first, preview all material first, and always have a backup. And they all kind of went together. But they voted that mine was the worst from 3 days ago. And I've made it this far in my career without this happening, I'll have you know. But when in a panic, testing an auxiliary cable to allow for sound, the only device I had on me was my phone with my Apple Music, and I needed it done quickly. So I just hit play as soon as it connected, because Apple Music automatically comes up. And my most recent was the new J. Cole album, which I highly recommend, but does not have a clean version. And the very first word that came out to an entire team of 6th graders was the F-bomb, loudly. The audio worked. First try.
Nice. However,
And then I waited for the parent phone calls.
did you get any?
Luckily, no, but I think that's due to the fact that it was the end of the year and not the beginning of the year.
Yeah, by the end of the year, parents are a little more like, let's just end the year. I think they feel the same way we do at that point. That's an awesome one, Whitney. Appreciate you sharing. Those things always happen. All right, who do we have next?
I believe we were Breakout 2, and I was the one that was chosen to share my story. So just brand new to the job, maybe a couple weeks into a month, and I was asked by the social studies TBT to do a technology presentation in class, and I assumed that everything, and that was my first mistake, is assuming. Made a nice presentation, had like slides made, had every link I was going to go to and show them in it, and we get to the point where I go to hook up to the projector, and the teacher goes, "Oh, my projector doesn't work." So it was one of those, just everything revolved around technology. I didn't have a backup plan in place. It ended up me just pretty much sharing stuff through email, what I could, but yeah, it definitely didn't go. And then everybody watched me flounder for the first 5 minutes of me being there, and this was just brand spanking new on the job, so I'm sure gave everybody a lot of confidence in my abilities, because hey, the tech guy can't get it to work. Welcome to our world kind of thing. was said, and so it was just really embarrassing for me. And so it just the lesson I learned from that is just go in, test everything out beforehand, just make sure everything's working the way that it should, and that way there's no surprises when you walk in. So
Yeah, it's always fun walking into other people's classrooms when you have no clue what may or may not be there and what may or may not be working. Thanks, Scott. We appreciate that. All right, who's in our group 3?
We didn't really vote on anyone that was.
I nominate Ryan.
You nominate me?
Ryan did have a good one.
Ryan,
Okay,
I like that.
So in our group, I'll just share what everyone had. We had someone that was writing on the whiteboard with Sharpie. We had someone that didn't preview their sound system for their student of the month. We had people that had to fumble around with different types of technology, whether it be Chromebooks or laptops. But what it boils down to is just like not having a backup plan to technology. So for me, it was my first year teaching. I was a high school social studies teacher, and I was being observed, and I really didn't know the content. So I would make a PowerPoint for everything because I would be learning the same time the kids would be learning. So I had a PowerPoint to sort of guide my direct instruction. I thought it was awesome, but we didn't have Wi-Fi for that day, and I didn't have a backup plan at all. So I was just sort of like fumbling around, figuring out what to do. And looking back on it, must have been pretty obvious for my principal that I had no idea what I was doing. And then the Wi-Fi came back up, and my PowerPoint wasn't working, but YouTube was. So I went to YouTube to try to find a video that was related to the content, and it did, but it was for my computer there's no filters. I think that's back when I was using a VPN, so I could see whatever. Well, in the PowerPoint, there was like some sexual content in it, not like porn or anything, but like very inappropriate comments and gestures that were made in the video. And my kids that were in high school, seniors, loved it. They thought it was the funniest video of all time, but my principal did not thought it was funny. So that was my worst experience with technology.
Sounds like a good one, Ryan. I think you got to love when you pull up YouTube and there's all the suggestions and the next, and it's like, So yeah, it sounds like a lot of these are first year teaching or first year experience in a new job. Yeah, first year teaching is so much fun, isn't it? Wouldn't do that year again for anything in the world. All right, last group. Who do we have?
I think we are the last group, and they nominated my story. And I teach 3rd and 4th grade Math Plus. And this was something that just happened a couple of weeks ago. We were wrapping up our final unit and wanted to just play a review game, something kind of relaxing, something not too high stakes or anything for the kids. These were 3rd graders. And all they'd been talking about for a while was Book It and how they wanted to play because they've played in other classes and it's so much fun. So okay, we could put together a Book It. So I did. And what was interesting was that the technology itself wasn't a problem. The review questions, everything, the program was fine. For those of you who don't know Book It, it's a game where you set up questions. As they answer the questions correctly and quickly, they earn more points and they can get more rewards to do whatever the game wants them to do. And what made it the disaster was that I didn't anticipate how emotionally charged a competition would be because they play head to head. And so I had one kid who was rapid fire answering. He had it down. And so he was leveling up, and the kids who weren't doing as well were literally in tears, slamming their Chromebooks, the case closer, like, I hate this game, I hate this class. And so my lesson was more along the lines of, are they emotionally prepared for some of the things that we are doing? And it was clearly not. I sent them back to class at the end, back to their homerooms at the end of the day, like after we wiped down our faces, took a deep breath, decompressed. It was a mess.
Sounds like fun, Gina.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
So yeah, we've all had these moments of tech. Tech can be awesome in and of itself. Sometimes it's not. So we've all had those moments of, as you know, I think back to Weston talking about his experience and his classroom teacher that he was working with, telling him, well, that was shit. Well, we've all had that moment of, I've done lessons that were that way, and they're awful sometimes. But we all learn from those experiences and we get better. And that's what matters, is that we're all striving to always get better. And I have to imagine you are here today because that's what you want to do. You want to get better and bolder in your instructional strategies. One thing I want to point out, if you haven't read any of the book yet, the one thing that I love about the book is as it's talking about instructional strategies, it will tell you technology is not always the best instructional strategy. So when you are in your classroom and you get to know your students and you're getting to know your curriculum, make those decisions based on what is the best instructional strategy, either with or without technology. So you'll notice as we're looking at these instructional strategies, they're not always about using tech. So really take the time to think about it. Are you doing tech for the sake of technology, or is it making the learning better? Because it's all about what the students are able to learn and what is the best instructional strategy for your group of kids that are sitting in front of you at that moment. And it may vary from year to year, and it may vary from period to period. If you are departmentalized or in middle school or high school, it may really vary from class to class. It's going to depend on the makeup of your kids. So I hope you've enjoyed getting to know each other a little bit. Stephanie, take us on to that next slide. So one of the things I think is so important when we're sitting here on these Google Meets is that you take a stretch, you go to the bathroom, you get a snack, you get a drink. So Stephanie's going to start us off here with a 5-minute timer. We just ask that you come back in 5 minutes and join us. You're welcome to turn off your cameras too if you'd like. Thanks, guys.
All right, welcome back, everyone. So for this next portion, we're going to do some edu protocols. And with Bold School, as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, edu protocols fit right into these kind of different frameworks. And edu protocols can save you time. They're easy ways to add quick, high impact strategies into your lesson with 0 to maybe 10 minutes of planning. None of these take forever to plan. They're usually pretty quick to add into any lesson. And because you're teachers, you're busy. And so these edu protocols can help you save time with your students, but also gain really good work from them. And so the first one we're going to do is the worst presentation ever. So you're going to go back into breakout rooms in a little bit. And one person in your breakout room will need to make a copy of this, and then they'll need to share the Google slide with your group. So we will give a couple minutes for that to share, and then you'll have to get everybody's email address. One tip is everybody just throw in your email into the Google chat, like when you're chatting in your breakout room, and that way they can just copy and paste those emails onto the slide, and then they can share it with you. So with the worst presentation ever, this is probably one of the funnest protocols ever because the kids already create pretty bad graphic designs with some of their presentations. And this one, it's like encouraging that. And so what I normally do is I have the students watch this video, and it's just a quick video that goes over some of the worst presentation ever. You can see here like the color schemes. And the kids are encouraged to do those in their presentation explaining their learning. And so what I'm going to do really quick is go through this slide deck. And again, feel free to use any of these templates in your classroom with your students. And on here, you can just kind of see that using lots of bullet points is not a good presentation strategy. Having a ton of data and graphs that are really hard for you to interpret and understand can also be another worst presentation idea that you or your students could use. Stretching out images. So you have an image and then you're just like, I'm just going to stretch it. And you can just kind of see like his body is very stretched. It gets blurry, hard to see. People just throw in random movie clips that don't really make sense with the presentation. Using lots and lots of clip art, and the clip art doesn't really go together. It's very different, but people will just often put like all these different clip arts onto their slides. Using word art, so really stretching that word art so it's really hard to see, and then just using a ton of word art all over their slides. I've seen a lot of kids do this. Using images that are really blurry, that you can't even really tell what it says, or even just kind of throwing it on there and again, like stretching it out. The transitions that never seem to end. And then when students put in links that don't even work. So they'll like throw in a link and it doesn't even work. That makes a really bad presentation. Also just using small text with typos can add to that worst presentation ever as well. Same with video links that don't work. Maybe they're blocked or they just don't play, or it was a video that did work, but now it doesn't work. Color schemes. It's really hard to read when it has yellow and this really light pinkish color over top of it. Using images behind, and then kids like try to explain something about the slide and you can't even read it because the image is so bright and kind of all over the place. And then adding all of those fun emojis and bit emojis all over slides. When we do this edu protocol with kids, they're like, I know a teacher that does that. So it's kind of funny, like when they are thinking about like their worst presentation that they have ever seen. Yeah, I know, Kristen, we love design. And then right here, again, the colors and the fonts. They just love to use different colors and fonts all over the place. And then these colors don't even go together. And then they just randomly will put shapes onto the slides. You might also just use templates that are already built into Google Slides where you can just kind of steal somebody else's and everybody's looks the same. You have an image, and again, you're writing over the image and it's hard to read. Another graph with lots and lots of data. And then just the formatting is all over the place. Some is centered, some is on the left, some might be on the right. Students might have too many different pictures all over the place. And then they just try to fit everything into their slides. So they just kind of copy and paste, they resize it so everything is on one slide deck. Using caps lock. And then here's another one with fonts and colors. All right, so these are things you will be breaking today. I know, Kristen, that's going to be hard for you. But you are going to break these today. And it's a really, again, a fun activity for kids. You go through it, and then their presentations later in the year look a lot better because they think about, okay, I did that worst presentation, and now I shouldn't use those colors together, or this is way too many font families together, or too many bullet points, or that image is way too stretched. So it is a fun activity to do at the beginning of the year. Maybe you do a quick, hey, I want to get to know you. What's 5 different things about you? And they're going to create 5 different slides. And then they will present that to the class or a small group. And so for your worst presentation ever, what you are going to do is you are going to use these questions. You can decide as a group if you want to focus in on one question, or maybe you want to cover all of the different questions. So as a group, you decide, do you want to focus on question 1? Do you want to do all 6? Or do you want to do like 1, 3, and 5? So as a group, discuss that. Once you discuss what questions you want to cover, you are going to create 5 slides. So you're going to have 5 slides, however you kind of want to organize your worst presentation ever. And you're going to have 15 minutes to build it. So not a whole lot of time. Same with the students. You give them those 15 minutes to build this worst presentation ever. And the first time, some of them might not finish. And that is okay, because you have to say, we're done. There's no more time, because then the second time you do this activity, they know you are serious about those 15 minutes. Once you have those 15 minutes, you are going to at least break 1 rule per slide. So maybe you break the bullet points. Maybe you break the font, color schemes. Maybe you stretch out an image. Maybe you add a ton of Bitmojis all over the slide. That is up to you and your group, but you have to at least break 1 rule per the 5 slides. Once you're all finished, you're going to share the slide deck with me. And so I will put my email in the chat just in case anybody needs it. So that group leader, share it with your group, and then also share it with me. And then once you are completely done, there is usually a twist. We're not going to do the twist today, but the twist is that your students will have their presentation done. It's turned in through Google Classroom with their group, and then another group presents their slides. So the original group does not present their slides. They're presenting somebody else's slide deck. So it can really deepen the content, because then they have to know, what did that group mean by all of these different bullet points? I can't even read this slide, but I can read the cover, and it does say this. So they kind of have to really use their knowledge about the content in order to present it to the group. And sometimes you might not throw that twist in, but sometimes you might, just to kind of get the students to think. So I am going to throw this template right into the chat. And again, one person is going to make a copy of it and then share it with the group members. We're going to be in different breakout rooms than before, just so you can get to know everybody. Any questions that anybody might have?
Stephanie, when we break out into sessions or whatever, will your link still be there, or do we need to copy it now?
You should open it now. It's on the slide deck as well, but go ahead and everybody.
Can you post the slide deck again? Because I don't, it won't let me go back through the chat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Scott.
Yes. Did you misspell presentation in the title, just as an example?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure.
All right. So just a really quick recap, 5 slides. You can pick as many questions as you want for your worst presentation. You can do them all. You could just pick a couple. And you're just going to talk about chapter 1 and kind of create your slides. and 15 minutes. So I am going to go ahead and create the breakout rooms, and then you will be all set to go.
Join.
Looks like we're still waiting for a group. They might be cheating. All right, so we got group one. Go ahead and someone from group one, go ahead and present your worst presentation ever, and I will move the slides for you.
All right, that will be me. Do you want me to present my screen, or are you good?
I can do it.
All right, so it was hard for me to type this up and also try to make it as bad as possible. So what we did is we just went straight down the line on questions, and our goal was to make a slide for every question, and we didn't really get to it. So the first one was question number one: when do we know that blended learning is working? And we talked about when the students feel confident, when the students are meeting their academic goals, and then also when the students and teachers feel comfortable and confident and using those resources and become proficient. We talked a lot about how our school and also our district have tons of resources, but we need to do a better job at becoming proficient at one and really excelling that so that our kids meet their academic goals. So I made that really hard to read with the huge question 111 on that. So Stephanie, you can go to the next slide. The next one's really hard to read. Obviously did that on purpose. And it's supposed to be what is blended learning or why blended learning. And I can't even read this. It says, gives the students an opportunity to dive deeper into the content. So instead of touching base at the surface, we can really go into that. Gives the kids a dose of reality. So we talked a lot about like the 21st century learning and using technology, and then gives every student an opportunity to have a voice and learn differently. So with using this technology, if kids are afraid to speak, they can type it in the chat. They can utilize those resources, and then every kid, we've had a lot of kids that have excelled with the hybrid model because they can feel more comfortable using those resources. And then the next slide, we talked about our myths of that we have with the blended learning, and we talked a lot about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so I put those images up there to sort of like gravitate everyone's attention toward that. So the myths that we really, gravitated, we really touched base on a lot of them, but the kids already know how to use technology. Like we give the kids Chromebook and like, hey, you guys know what to do. Also the teachers know how to use technology, know how to use those resources. Technology drives all of our decisions. And old school strategies still work, and that's sort of like mind blowing to some people, because if you are old school, you do know that those things work, but it's being approached now that they don't work. So next slide. The next slide is we talked about, like, you know, the purpose of blended learning, how it works, and I just typed in, honestly, 21st century learning on Google, and just found this really confusing graph. I don't even know what's going on in this graph, and it's talking about, in this graph, I have no idea. I know it's about teachers and students, but I put it on there because that's the whole purpose, is that it's really confusing, but it looks good because there's a bunch of data there, but I have no idea what this is even about. So you can go to the next one. And then question 5, we didn't even get to. We were discussing it. And then we got booted into there, but I know question 5 was pertaining to how teachers use technology as a tool. So I remember in the movie Step Brothers about how their worldwide entertainment group was using technology and the latest science. So I felt like, hey, once again, let's put up some random images that really have nothing to do with the question. So once again, we just kind of like touched base on the first 5 questions, but with only 15 minutes, we couldn't get into it a whole lot.
Nice job, group 1. All right, group 2.
We did, we chose one myth and we started with myth number 3, kids are digital natives. And there we have images that cover the text that kids can't figure out why when they present. Lots of random stickers on there and some colors that don't match very well.
I love the random transition. All right, in group 3, let me get yours up.
All right, so we started with a title slide, which most things do, and one thing, and these are 2 things that really bug me, I guess, and I'm kind of that old curmudgeon, but like when things are misspelled and when font is too small, so like I get a headache from looking at it. Like those are the 2 like biggest things. We also purposely chose a white background because it's the most unoriginal thing, and you know, all you have to do is hit template. How easy is that? And yet some students don't do that. Just have the blank slide. We decided to focus on these myths of education. So you can go ahead. So as you can see here, I can't see here. We talked about how, education is broken. Yeah, I'm already getting a headache already, so I can't read that. So we'll move on. There we have some, some images put in incorrectly and ones that aren't appropriate. I mean, the heart is broken there, but I'm not sure how that necessarily fits to this. Okay. You can move on, Stephanie, please.
I'm trying. There's a lot of random things coming up as I'm clicking.
Here's myth number 2, old way of teaching no longer works. So you have some of the font that's off the page. My favorite, go and click on that Dead Poet Society video clip, please. I love this one because you go there and you get this, the video's been removed. And so, yeah. And then you have the stretched images. Myth 3, you can go to myth 3. So myth 3, you have some important information, but it's covered by a photo and you can't really see it. You've got the word doodle in the corner, which is great, but you can't see any of them because it's so small. And then we stretched a triangle where it no longer becomes a triangle. It becomes something oblong. So not really effective triangle. And then this one, you go and click on this, got a bunch. I think they went to town on this one. So technology must drive all decisions. And so you can't, I don't know if you can see, there's tons of text boxes in there that are left on so that you're seeing the text boxes as well. So, all right, I think that's it.
All right, you guys survived the worst presentation ever. And so again, you can use that with your students and you can use that template. So it should take you like 0 minutes of planning. All you have to do is upload it to Google Classroom, or you can have the kids copy it and share just like you did with their group. So it can be a really good activity for students. And their first one is a little rough, but then they do get better as you do repetition and you keep on doing this. And it allows them to take the information that they know. And like Todd said, he's like, I can't read that. It's giving me a headache. Well, you can't read from your slide. You have to know that information when you present it. So it can just be really fun. And then at the end of the year, maybe you do the best presentation ever where they don't break any of those rules at all. So you can go back and forth between the worst and the best. We're going to take another quick 5-minute break. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Feel free to take a restroom break, get a snack, fill up your coffee, whatever you need to do for the next 5 minutes. All right, welcome back from your 5-minute break. We are going to give away some more free books. And on this flippity, I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel. And these are Edu Protocol books that we have purchased. So Matt Dansby, you will be getting a Edu Protocol book, and we have more. Should I do a couple more spins, Scott and Angie, or just one right now?
Oh, you could go ahead and do maybe one more. We got what, 5 total to pass out?
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, Mike.
Woo!
And Kevin. So we will get you those books maybe next school year. Unless you'll be in. Let me know if you're in. I'm working, so we will get those to you. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the slides. Now for the second one, it's going to be a 15-minute breakout room again. And this one is called the group Brainstorm. It's another Edu protocol. And how this kind of works is it will be silent to allow some processing time for your students. And so when you come in here, you're going to define like what are they brainstorming about. And we have the questions laid out for chapter 2. And then you'll set a timer, so like 15 minutes. And then you're going to have students silently brainstorm for a couple minutes. And then they're going to either leave comments or discuss aloud. So that is kind of up to you. And you can decide as your group today, but maybe sometimes you might just have kids silently collaborating with each other using the comment tool. So using this tool in Google, and then they can leave notes about like, I love this idea, or to add on to this, they can do that. Or they might discuss out loud. So again, as a group, you guys decide, do you want to do this out loud, or do you want to do it with using the comment tool and adding notes to each other? And then everybody's going to become a student. So you're going to pick which student you would like to be. And then you'll type in your answers in this little box. And all of the questions are up here. And each question is a different slide. So you can work at your own pace as you're going over these questions, and then maybe say, okay, when there's 6 minutes left, let's come back together and let's talk out loud how the different comments that we have towards each other's and what they wrote. So it allows that processing time for some of those students that really just need to internally process the information that's coming at them. So just a reminder, you're going to find a slide, become a student, and then you'll just take notes in the box, and all the questions are up here that you'll need. And you might not get to all of the questions, and that's totally fine. If your discussions are really in-depth and great, then perfect if you only answer 3 questions. If you get to all of the questions, that is awesome as well. Okay, any questions about this protocol?
Do we need to copy this one as well? Or
Yeah, and one person in your group will make a copy and then share it with your group.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm trying to make the groups a little bit even.
Stephanie, did you already share that? I don't see it in the...
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Okay. Give me one. All right. Thanks, Scott. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute to open that up. And then I'm going to open up the rooms. And so just a reminder, on the group Brainstorm, all of your questions are on the slide. You're going to decide which student is which. You can put your name in replace of the student if you want. And then you will answer that question, and then you will either use the comment tool to discuss with your group, or you will talk out loud. So you can kind of decide as a group how you want to do that. And if you finish question 1, but your group's still working, just go on to the next question. Okay, and then your group leader, whoever you determine who that is, will make a copy and share with the group. Okay, everyone ready? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't get any discussion in.
No, I mean, I think we all thought about the questions, but we should have set a timer.
All right, I think majority of people have made it back. So it looks like, yeah, a lot of people did not get to the discussion part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a 5-minute timer and maybe focus in on one of the questions that your group would like to discuss. So we are going to go back into breakout rooms and there will be that 5-minute time to discuss. So just kind of talk about what you did, process, and what you did kind of reflect about on chapter 2. So let me go ahead and get that set up. All right, I think we all made it back.
Is that everybody? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So just a reminder with that group brainstorm, you don't have to do that digitally. You could have students use Post-it notes, and they quickly write down their thoughts on that question that you maybe prompted them on, or maybe you do have them do it digitally and just type in a slide or on a piece of paper. These strategies don't all have to be digital. And so just think about that when you are planning your lessons. But again, maybe 2-minute prep, thinking of a high, what type of question am I going to use with those type of protocols? All right, Scott.
All right, so we're moving on to the self-assessment. I'll go ahead and post the link in the chat. So what we're going to be doing for this part of the next activity is you're going to duplicate the template slide. So you can see here, everybody has the link to the slide presentation. And so you're going to click on slide number 2 and right click on it, and then you're going to hit duplicate slide. Okay, and that's going to make an extra copy for you of the template slide. And then in the speaker notes down here at the bottom of your slide, you're going to just type in your name so that we know who, which slide belongs to who. And then for this activity, you're going to be taking and putting a star or a heart, depending on if it's a strategy that you've tried before. So if it is a strategy that you've tried before, you're going to put a heart on that strategy, and just make sure you place it on the actual strategy. That just makes it easier. So you can see there, Stephanie's kind of putting it on the ends of the lines there. That just makes it easier for us to see. And so we're going to take a look at what strategies you've tried, and then maybe something that resonates with you or something that looks interesting. And you're going to put a star on those, and then we're going to take that into account. We're going to go through these quickly during the break and be able to kind of decide how we're going to be breaking up our groups for the group project. So based on what you put here in the self-assessment, we'll kind of help in our decision-making process of which group you end up in.
So Scott, just to clarify for everyone, heart is what you've done, star is what you find interesting or you want to try?
Correct. Yes. So heart is what you've done. Star is what you want to try.
Okay.
I can't find my slide because Stephanie keeps duplicating.
I was just gonna say the same thing. I can't find my slide, but I'll keep looking.
I'll try to help.
I can't either.
Slide 3 is open. Slide 4 is open.
Where am I finding
Slide
this slide? I'm not.
So this is in the link that's in the chat.
Okay.
We're going to click on that, and then it's the second slide was the template slide, but I think Stephanie's made copies for everybody, and just pick any one that's open. So if you look down in the speaker notes, if it's got somebody's name in it, then it's been claimed.
Yeah, I finally got it. I wasn't getting it in the chat.
Except if it says Stephanie, take her name out and put your name in.
Deleting them.
All right, and I'm super savvy on enter. Is there a heart and a star available to just do that?
There is. You can go up to the shapes tool at the top. You see where there's a circle and a square overlapped. On that button, you can grab a heart shape from there, or if you go to the slide number 1.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yep, and you can just copy from slide number 1 the heart
picture and then
Oh, that would
copy the star from heart or from direction number 4 on the
Okay.
first slide.
Oh man, now I keep
I'm
moving.
sorry, could you repeat the directions one more time?
So in slide number 1, there's a picture of a heart in the directions under number 3. If you just click on that heart and hit Command C, you can copy that heart. Are they the same image, Stephanie?
Yeah, so on slide 2, I just put the images. You can click them and then copy them. If you want a shortcut, if you hit Command and Shift at the same time, you can click both of them, and then you can copy both of them to your slide.
Okay, and I'm going to totally be somebody right now. What if you don't know if you've done these, but you don't realize you're doing them? Because we haven't read the chapters.
I would say just leave.
I'm like, what if I don't even really know if I'm
just leave it blank if you haven't.
Okay, but I might be and I don't realize it.
Yeah, just say if you don't know, then I would leave it blank.
So like chapter 3, if you've used interactive video. Chapter 4 is like using questioning. Chapter 5 is using vocabulary. Chapter 6 is direct instruction. Chapter 7, peer tutoring. Chapter 8 is concept mapping. Chapter 9 is worked examples. Chapter 10 is using self-assessment. Chapter 11 is reciprocal teaching. Chapter 12 is problem-solving teaching. And then chapter 13 is space versus mass practice.
If you guys could include your first and last name would be really helpful for me, at least. Thanks, guys.
Okay, another minute or so, or is most everybody done?
I can't figure out how to get this hard on here. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Scott, I'm not quite ready. I'm going to take a few minutes yet.
Okay. So if you click on the icon in slide number 2 and then you'll see like a box appear around it.
Yes.
Then you just hit Command C to copy it.
Yes.
And then go back to your slide.
Yes.
And hit Command V.
Yep.
And it doesn't pop in.
Okay. There it is.
Okay. Okay, we'll go about 1 more minute. Okay. If you still need a little bit of time, go ahead and finish that up. But I believe at this point, we're going to switch over to Stephanie's going to talk more about the EDGE protocols. And then Angie and I are going to take a look at what you put in the self-assessment results. And we're going to take a kind of divide everybody into groups for the group project that we'll be talking about here in a little bit.
And just real quick, this self-assessment is also kind of like an EDGE protocol. It kind of reminds me of thin slides. And so with thin slides, every student is working in the same slide deck. And what they do is they get one slide, just like everybody got one slide. And then they usually add one image and one word. So this is a great exit ticket for your students to do, where they get that one slide and every single student has one word and one image. Once the time is up, and that only takes 3 minutes. So again, it's a quick, about 5-minute activity for you to wrap up. And your students come in, they add their one word, one image, put their name in the speaker notes, and then you hit present. And then they would just quickly talk about what they put on their slide. So it could be any type of topic that you're teaching. It could be that entrance or exit ticket that's really quick for your students. And then every single student gets about 4 seconds to quickly talk about something on their slide, either the image or the word and how it connects with the topic or their understanding of what the prompt was. So just a really fun activity. And another reason I hit present is because when you hit present, it saves their edits where they're at. And so if they're making edits as other students are presenting, they will not reflect to the class. So it just can be a really great idea for, hey, I'm going to hit present. None of your edits show. So that way, next time we do a thin slides, you know to keep working quickly. Also on here, if you want to watch your students work during that quick 3-minute activity, there's a view in Google Slides. And I can see the students work in real time. And so I can click this and I can go, okay, Scott's on slide 3. It looks like maybe Mike's a little bit struggling, so I might need to check in with him on slide 6. So you can kind of see all of the different work that everybody's doing in that one glance. And again, that is using that grid view. And it's just down here in the little corner. And then you can see all the students working at the same time. It's kind of like Kapara where you can see all their screens. And like we said before, EDGE protocols is kind of what we're mashing with Bold School. And with your group projects and individual projects, you'll kind of see some connections with EDGE protocols and Bold School come together. And right here are the 3 books that have been created from EDGE protocols. And if you click, you can purchase a copy going to Amazon. These are not required for the course, but you might be interested in purchasing these because they're really good. Again, very low prep strategies that you can add to your classroom. So I know a lot of us work a lot, but you can use some of these ideas with planning under 10 minutes. So maybe you want to incorporate some of this to help save your sanity in the long run. These are just some really good books to do that. So they've got 1, 2, and then a math edition. My favorite is probably book 2. I think it has the most strategies that you can get. So right here is book 2. And then the math one is also good. It's focused on math, but you're able to kind of take some of those strategies and incorporate them into your subject or learning. Yes, the digital copies are $4.99. So if you go over to Amazon and you click the Kindle version, right now, I think it's until the end of this month, they're only $4.99. I have both versions because I like to have it on my phone when I really quickly need it. And then I also have the paperback version of the books. But again, $4.99, pretty good deal. But you do not need those books for this class. They're just really good resources for you to add into your classroom. If you click my Bitmoji, if you want to later, right here, I've kind of taken all of the Edu protocols, and I'm going to put this link into the chat. And with a group of friends, I had them model as students. So right here, if you want to see just how do I use maybe thin slides in the classroom, you can click the video and it will take you to that chapter in the YouTube video, and you can just watch that section. And I had, again, a couple of my friends from all around the world. They've never used Edu protocols, so they are like real students, and they are actually going through these different protocols and just trying to learn more about them as a student. So over here, if you want to see all of them, there's timestamps for every single protocol, and you just have to click and it will take you to Not Your Paragraph or Not Your Paragraph. Emoji Power Paragraph, it will take you to that one, and you can get all of these quick, easy ideas to add into your classroom, and it puts the work on the students. The students become the creators, where all you kind of do is facilitate their learning for them. Over here, where there's additional resources, these are, each of the protocols have a video. So you can kind of go in, and this is the group Brainstorm. And if you go over here to this Wakelet, there is all these lesson templates that you can kind of grab, steal, recreate for your classroom. So there's the video, and then here are free templates that you can, again, make a copy and customize for your students, for your classroom, and then all you have to do is pop it into Google Classroom or decide how you want to use that. Again, all of these resources are just there for you. They're just kind of additional resources that go along with all of the different chapters in Bold School. And then if you want to use it, just click the video. They're all time-stamped, and they will take you straight to that time in the video so that you can learn more about that Edu protocol. Over here are all of the there was 3 different playlists because we only booked an hour over like a couple nights with these different educators. So this is round 1, it covers book 1. Round 2 covers book 2, but a little bit of book 1. And then round 3 is all of the math Edu protocols and the ones that are not mentioned in a book. So if you would like to review any of those resources, again, all of them are time-stamped, and you can just click and go straight to that resource and learn more. And then there's also, which Scott and Angie will get into more, on here we have kind of like a learning roadmap to help you through your chapter that you are assigned. And you can just kind of see right here that everything is kind of sketched out. So there are all the Edu protocols on your roadmap, and then it has like sketch and tell. You could use that idea. Or the scoop could also help with this Edu protocol. So you can just kind of see all of them as well on your kind of roadmap for Bold School. And then also there is a YouTube playlist that has all of the Edu protocol videos. And again, the Wakelet with all of the resources to each of those videos. So feel free to use these throughout the school year, next school year, or if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to help. All right, we are going to take another break. This one is a little bit longer because we are, I think, halfway, if not more than done with today's course for today's session. And so we're going to take, again, another 10-minute break. Feel free to fill up that coffee one more time, stretch your legs, and we will be back in 10 minutes.
Who was that again? Pam Waits?
It was Pam Waits.
Okay.
Are you guys ready for us already? Hey, Scott, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
The quote of the year.
Yep. I forgot that it automatically mutes when you rejoin back in. So we're going to start on the group project assignments and who you've been paired with. So we have chapters 3 through 13, and kind of what we're doing is we want to give everybody a chance to get a taste of all the chapters. So rather than having everybody responsible for each of the chapters that are in the book, we're kind of dividing and conquering here, and we're going to give each group a chance to present out on each of the different chapters. So 1 and 2 was for today, but chapter 3 starts with the first chapter, the first instructional strategy, all the way through 13. So I believe this link is also in the chat, but I think Angie's added this to the slideshow presentation as well. So for chapter 3, we put Deborah with Ryan, Mike with Shannon's for chapter 4, questioning and Socratic. Okay, chapter 5 is Ralph and Clay. We're going to leave out chapter 6 just with the numbers that we have. We didn't have enough to put everybody in all the chapters, but we figured direct instruction was probably the chapter that most people are familiar with. Chapter 7, peer tutoring, Whitney and Kristen. Chapter 8, concept mapping, Hugh and Aaron. Chapter 9, worked examples, will be Jen and Matt. Chapter 10, self-assessment, Aaron and Todd. Chapter 11, reciprocal teaching, will be Pam and Patty. Chapter 12, problem-solving teaching, Gina and Sherry. And then finally with chapter 13, spaced versus mass practice, are Caitlin and Kevin. Okay, any questions about your groups? Obviously, we're going to talk more here about what this looks like and kind of how, I'll go ahead and stop presenting my screen. Okay, and then Stephanie's working on right now, she's getting everybody divided up into the groups, set up for the breakout rooms. So when we go into our next breakout room, you'll be breaking out with who you've been assigned with. Okay.
Hey, Scott, can you walk them through what the group project is?
Yep. Getting ready to present right now. All right, so in the group project, and if you're in the slideshow as well, if you click on the image here, it's going to bring up this link for the Bold School instructional strategies slideshow, and you'll notice here in the slide deck, we've got chapter 1 and 2, which is kind of about what we've been doing. And then it breaks it down to chapter 3, chapter 4, 5, and so on. And so this is the instructional roadmap, or the learning roadmap for this activity. And what we're going to be doing, and we'll take a look at, since nobody's doing the direct instruction one, we'll kind of take a look at what that looks like and how you'll progress through this with your partner. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to read chapter 6. Okay, and then you'll notice that we have assigned some edu protocols that you can use to present on chapter 6. So for instance, if you click on, you'll have links here. So this is the link to Thin Slides. Okay, and if we just open that one up. Okay, all the directions are included in here along with some videos. Let me open that up full screen so we can see it. Okay, so and you'll do that activity as you're going through here. So you're going to create a thin slides based on whatever your topic is. So for this one, it would be direct instruction. Okay, then next. Okay, you're going to prepare a group presentation. Okay, you've got a link to the answer document here. Moving slow. Okay, and then you would locate the chapter that pertains to your particular topic and take a look at those questions. Try to answer those in your presentation. Okay, then we go over here to the prepare your group presentation. So here's an example slideshow that you can use. You can make a copy of this if you'd like, or you can go and make your own. It's up to you. And it's just basically a template. So it just got some placeholders and things in here. So you would just go in and put in your chapter number. You can use this if you'd like. If you want to go off and make your own, you can go in, but this just kind of helps guide you through the different bits of information that we're looking for each of the particular chapters. Okay, then we come to the think about it section. So this is, whoops. Okay, so in here, you'll read the directions that are over here on the left, and it should already be linked to the chapter that corresponds to the slide that you're in. So you're going to think about what are step 1, direct instruction's greatest potential is when it is used to teach new knowledge. Okay, and then you're going to give us some notes on that. Direct instruction is multifaceted and intentional. So you're going to pull some notes from that you took from the chapter on that as well. And then step 3, same thing as well. Technologies make monitoring student engagement and comprehension during direct instruction seamless, simple, and information rich. Okay, so and Angie, can you help clarify the back channel and feedback? Do you know what was meant by that?
Sorry, so what are you using for the students? Like if a student has questions as they're working on something, so if you're doing direct instruction rather than, 10 kids standing there holding their hand up, what kind of back channel or what kind of way could you have for kids to ask questions? So sometimes people will have a Google slide and they're just throwing their questions on there. There are actual websites that you could use for a back channel. Sometimes it's as simple as kids write it on a Post-it note and they post it up on a board where you come back later. Remember, like the traffic stop. This is where you come to when you have a question and you leave it up there. Sometimes it's something as simple as, hey, ask 2 of your friends and then come back and ask the teacher. So there are different ways that you have for kids to give feedback and ask questions.
Okay. Awesome. All right. And once you do the think about it, then here's the next slide. We've got a Wakelet linked here with a whole bunch of different resources. Just find the Wakelet that corresponds to the topic that you've been assigned. Okay, and then you can go in here and add resources to this section if you'd like. This will just help kind of make a Wakelet that's got all the different resources that we've gathered for each of these will be put into one, and then we can share out or share what everybody's found, and then you have a resource that you can dig into when all is said and done, that you have different examples and different resources that you can dive into and use with your students. Okay, and then finally, so when we hit our next instructional day, which is the, I believe, June 7th, is that correct? On June 7th, when we get back together, we'll be presenting out what you've come and created with your partner. And then you'll be presenting this out to the entire class so that we each get kind of a taste of each of the different chapters and kind of what each of those everything was about. And we can go in here and we have all of our resources here to share out. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this process?
About how much time each group?
I believe it's 15 minutes.
Yeah, they're going to be quick presentations. I'm going to just share. You can use this template if you want. If you don't want to use this template, you can use a blank slide deck and create your own. Slides Go and Slides Mania have templates too that you could use for your group's presentation, or you might get really creative and not even do something with slides. So feel free to use your creativity, but we did want to provide like templates and resources for you. But on like the first slide, you would just put like your chapter and maybe your strategy that you're doing. So for example, if I'm doing direct instruction, I would do Bold School chapter 6, direct instruction. Put whoever's on your group, so that way we can kind of know like who did that work. So if I'm working with Angie and Scott, we would maybe put our bit emojis or a real picture of ourselves on this slide. Then you're going to kind of create an agenda for your 10 minutes. So you might talk about the effect size, because in the book, it talks about the different effect sizes and how it relates to John Hattie's work and how those can help with using really those high impact strategies. Then you're going to kind of go over your questions for your chapter. And then there's some edu protocols that go along with your chapter. And you're just going to kind of explain like how you might use some of those in your chapter, which we've already kind of picked out for you. So if you do need help with that part, feel free to reach out to me. And then examples. And so then after the agenda, you would answer question 1 as your group. You could do it in words, images, however you and your group kind of decide to showcase the answers for all of your questions. And on the roadmap, the questions are right here. So prepare your group presentation. And then they're all in this PDF. So you'll just go to your group. And so direct instruction, I've got 4 different questions that I'm going to focus on. And so then I would probably organize this if this was my deck. Each of these get a separate slide. And then I would talk about the edu protocols. And so on the roadmap, I've got my 2 edu protocols here, thin slides and the ultimate exit ticket. And I would talk about how I would use those with direct instruction. So I might say like with thin slides, I would use that at the end after I'm giving my instructions to students and ask them to place a quick 1 image, 1 word on those slides. And then after you do that, you're going to provide an example. So in the book, it has like a graphic organizer that kind of goes into detail about each strategy with an example of how it's happened in a classroom. And the subjects are very variety. So like sometimes it might be a kindergarten lesson or a music lesson or 6th grade. So every kind of chapter is a little bit different in what he kind of captures. But you're going to first kind of come up with the goal, the strategy, and then the tools. And then right here, you might work with your group. So maybe you're a high school teacher, but then you have an elementary teacher, and they would talk about how it would be kind of different between those 2 grade bands. And if you don't have, like there's only groups of 2, so you wouldn't have to do all of these. Or if you're both middle school, focus in on that area. And then that is your presentation. Any questions about kind of the layout or the organization of what you're asked to do with your groups?
just to clarify, I said they are 15-minute presentations, but you said it was 10-minute presentation. Is it 10? Is it 10 minutes? I can't remember.
Let me go back.
I know, I'm trying to find what we had decided on. So while Stephanie is looking for that, our goal of the group presentations is that you're going to get to hear a lot of information about every chapter. And then at the end of next time we meet, then you'll get to decide on an individual project. So what we didn't want you to have to do is dig into every single chapter, but this will give you a chance to get the highlights of every chapter, and then you get to pick one that you want to focus on, that instructional strategy. So we're kind of jigsawing reading the book and helping each other out. We recommend you read all the book, but really and truly, you could probably get that presentation and then dig into the chapter that interests you the most.
It is 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, so we were both right.
Yeah.
Love it.
So you can prepare for like a 10 or 15, but we will probably have to cut you off. That way we're not here all day, because we know you guys want to enjoy summer and get outside and all that kind of stuff. So you might not present the whole slide deck. You might just cover certain parts of your presentation that you really want to go into more depth about.
So our plan for the rest of the time is to give you, let's say it would probably be about 8 minutes to meet with your group and figure out how you guys are going to meet, whether it's synchronously or asynchronously, and how you're going to break up your work and work together to have this presentation ready for June 7th. So Stephanie's got our breakout rooms ready. We're going to give you about 8 minutes, because then we're going to come back together and talk about the individual projects and work on an exit slip. So if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, Stephanie's going to send you off.
I had a quick question. For this copy, do we make a copy of the slides first so that we can edit, or are we able to just click on the links?
You'll want to make a copy.
Okay.
And you don't have to use any of our templates. Like if you want to create your own, that's totally fine. We just wanted to provide like a worked example out for you.
Yeah, I was talking about this one in particular, the one that you have pulled up.
Oh, this one, you can just, you should only have view edit.
Okay.
View access. And we can add the presentation at the end. I can link all that.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
And if you go in Google Classroom and click on any of the templates that are actually in the assignment, it'll just make a copy for you.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and send everybody off.
Do you want to put it up, Stephanie, or do you want me to?
I can.
Hey guys, we'll give everyone a chance to drop back in. Waiting on the last couple of people to come back over. You must be having some great group discussions. All right, I think we have everyone back, don't we, Stephanie? Nope, we still got a few more coming.
Think you're good now?
Awesome. Okay, guys, so as you had a few minutes to meet with your group, any questions for us? Awesome. If you decide you have
I do have
Actually, I
questions.
have
On slide 12, when it has like the goal, strategy, and tool paradigm, are we like, what goal are we using? Is it the chapter, like worked examples, or what do we do with that, I guess?
You could use the group chapter as your goal.
Okay.
So like you're going to present this like they were your students.
Okay, got it. And then same with like the identify desired academic outcomes, that's all related to our chapter title?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we were understanding that everything on the roadmap is more like a resource for us to build our slide deck. And the only thing we actually need to present is the slide deck. Is that our understanding correctly?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we just were trying to provide you with some examples and things that might help you along the way.
But like if there's a doc on there that we don't actually have to fill it out to the point of like presenting it, that's preparing for the slides.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you have questions along the way, please feel free to email any of the three of us. We will happily email you back and give you any information that we can. All right. Let's start talking about individual projects. So when we meet in June, you're going to get to hear all the presentations on all these great instructional strategies, and then you get to pick whatever instructional strategy you have a passion to learn more about or to stretch your growth in that instructional strategy in your classroom. So once you have chosen that, Stephanie put all the different chapters on here for you. Then you're going to take and you're going to make 3 examples that you could use with your own students. So Stephanie, click on, that for me. So this is the instructional framework that will help you with those instructional strategies. So this is copied on here 3 times, and you'll see it'll say lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. So you will find 3 lessons that you really want to try this instructional strategy with next year, and go through and design out that lesson using this framework. You've seen it throughout the book. There's examples in the book, so feel free to refer back to those as you're coming through. And then Steph, if you head back over to our slides. So after you go through and you build these instructional frameworks, then you're going to come back and you're going to present this in like a 5-minute presentation to the group. So you probably would only have time to do one. So I would say pick the one that you love the most after you've gone through and designed that lesson and share it with the group. And this is an opportunity in August where I say, beg, borrow, and steal every awesome lesson that everybody else is doing out there and make it your own. So was there a next slide on there, Stephanie, that I missed?
Yeah, real quick. And then also you'll need to choose one of these reflective kind of activities for you to get feedback, because you're going to need to get feedback from the other students in this class to write your reflection. And so we provided some different templates and ideas, and you can choose your own or create your own type of feedback, but that way you're able to kind of reflect on how did your session go? What improvements could you make to your lesson that you can kind of incorporate for the following or the next school year?
Or later that day if you teach middle school or high school. So yeah, so go ahead and actually in that framework, part of the framework is asking you how you're going to get feedback from your students. So that is part of that. And Stephanie's made some amazing things for us to look at and be able to share that information with you. Or like I said, she said, create your own. All right, any questions on those individual projects? You may have more as we dig in a little further, but any questions now? All right, Stephanie, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, and we don't have much time, so I'm just going to kind of go over this wrap up because I do want you guys to go right now. But this is a thick slide. So this is another Edu protocol, and how this can help your students is they have to write a paragraph, and a lot of our students struggle with writing. And this takes that paragraph and it deconstructs it. So it puts it into multiple different segments and activities for your students to do. And so right here is just an example. So I took the book Edu Protocols. I came up with a subtitle, and then I came up with my facts. So students come up with 5 facts. They find one quote. They find another quote. They add those quotes to the bottom of the template. They find 2 images that go along with the chapter, and then they add a quick caption about those chapters. Then they make a comparison with something else. So that something else could maybe be like, maybe if you're doing McDonald's hamburgers and Burger King and you're doing that comparison. And so the students don't actually write a paragraph, but they're now successful that they're able to kind of take all of their notes to create that paragraph. And we were going to do this, but since we're out of time, I just wanted to explain it, and you could use this in your classroom to help scaffold some of those writings activities that your students need to do. And all of the students work in the same deck, so that way you're able to use that grid view to see everybody's work at the same time and give them the feedback right away. And then here is the next steps, kind of the roadmap for the course. You're going to read chapters 3 through 13. It takes about 5 hours, and that's using the audio book. We took those numbers exactly from there. I think it was like 4 hours and some odd minutes. And then you're going to work on your group project and present your group project on the 7th. And then you'll have time to explore different resources that are in the learning roadmap for your chapter and in Google Classroom. And then you'll have your individual project, and then you will present and get peer feedback from your projects. And then the reflection. And that is it.
So Stephanie, are you thinking then that we choose after we see all of the presentations? So, okay, good. I don't
Yeah.
want to be working on that. Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, you can hop off and we can stay on a couple extra minutes to answer any individual questions that you guys might have.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Go out and be bold.